What's going on, everyone? Welcome in to another episode of Wildly Informed. Brett Marshall, Isha Jerome, back here with you for another episode. Plenty to talk about tonight. All walks of the hockey life with the state tournament around the corner. We got some section hockey. We'll talk about the Wild. We'll talk about Faber and Middleton and Four Nations, and a lot of fun things tonight. But before we get into everything, as we always got to do, check in with Isha. How's it going tonight, man?
I'm good. 3 straight warm days coming off the freaking coldest day of the year, typical Minnesota winter.
Yeah, no
and
kidding.
On the coldest day of the year, I jumped in Minnetonka. Actually, I didn't jump. I slowly walked into Minnetonka and then was breathing very slowly for a minute, doing a cold plunge in like the coldest day of the year. And then the next day was like, what the hell is this? And I actually like snuck in a run today, so... life's good. And also, MN Simon becoming a member. Thank you so much, buddy. Thanks so much for supporting the channel. We appreciate you. We got some from your guys' feedback. We got some membership ideas cooking right now that we're gonna, some content ideas that we're gonna roll out soon for you guys. But right now, we are gonna be giving you guys early access to all of our big interviews that Hoppy and Joe Smith do, that Hoppy myself do. And we have the Minnesota Gophers goalies. We just interviewed them last week. And I'll hopefully finish editing that up in the next couple days. Probably like sometime on the weekend latest. And then you guys will get that a week early as well. So anyways, thank you so much, Simon. Appreciate it.
Yeah, that's good stuff. And like to your point about like the weather, I think I heard something. There was something like an 85-degree temperature difference from Monday this week to Monday of the previous week, which is just insane.
And it's supposed to drop Saturday like 20 degrees and then right back up Sunday, Monday. So hey, no complaints over here. No complaints over here. So.
No, I'm ready. I always say like my ideal winter is from Thanksgiving to the state hockey tournament, so close enough.
Yeah,
like
it was just colder than last year, so we're all like freaking out, but like this is kind of run of the mill, I imagine.
Yeah, as long as we get through March, okay, that's all that matters.
Yeah, we're gonna get like 1 or 2 more big snow dumps, and then it's gonna rain for like a few weeks, and then spring will be here, and early summer spring will be here just before we know
playoffs.
Yeah,
great time.
That's really it. That's really because I remember back home, like it didn't snow on Vancouver Island, but like just like our winters were just rain, like 20 days worth of rain sort of thing. Now, luckily on the island, because it's so windy, you'd get like sun in the morning, rain, wind, or like vice versa. You'd get it all. Whereas like in the bubble that is Vancouver, I had friends who lived on the mainland. Like you'd get like 20, 30 days of just like no sun, cloudy rain, Seattle type weather. And like I couldn't even handle that. Like I could not handle that at all. But like when we could play a ton of ball hockey outside in shorts and be like fine, it was like, all right, it's playoff time.
Yeah, for sure. We got a lot to get
coming up. Yeah, we got a lot today. So what we got coming up?
So we'll start off with the hockey headlines. I think it's been talked about ad nauseum at this point, so we won't spend too much time on it. But we spent time on it the last couple of weeks, so we'll finish up our discussion here with the Four Nations. Your boys from Canada obviously take down the U.S. in overtime. Who else but Connor McDavid? Like pretty awesome way to cap that tournament off. Players not on the ice were Brock Faber, Jacob Slavin, who had shut him down for the entire tournament, but they had to be on the bench due to some icing. Cool things for the Minnesota Wild. Again, Faber, I'm sure as you've heard now, a ton, led all the players in that game in time on ice, and Boldy led all the USA forwards. So not predictions I don't think any of us would have had going into that tournament for the Wild players, but they were great. And that game, again, was phenomenal. I mean, it was a great tournament all in all, and really gets you excited for the Olympics and kind of what little tweaks and stuff will be made and for that match to happen again.
Yeah, it's cool because like the rosters aren't going to change too much. Like you said, just like some small tweaks there. So there's going to be some like, recent animosity going in. Canada, the United States are 1-1 going into the Olympics with a chip on their shoulder. Right. Whether that they play each other in the preliminary round or not, it's like, I know like the goal is gold, but I think like the sub goal is gold beating either Canada or the United States, whatever side you're on. So love the storyline going in. And yeah, what a success overall. It sucks that Gary Bettman's not going to do this every year. At least he's hinting at it, because like I wish this would just replace the All-Star game every year, because instead of players trying to avoid it, like you'll have players wanting to play. Right. Like look at Pasternak just bitching and complaining the whole time on social media about like wanting the Czech team there, which I think it would still be a little too thin having a Czech team, but like whatever. I would just have to see if there's enough players. If there's enough players, fuck it, throw them in there. Hopefully Russia again soon. They'll definitely be in the Olympics. But yeah, this just got me so much more excited for the Olympics. And on the Wild side of things, every player played well. Every player not only played well, every player played good, some great, like you highlighted. So overall, a successful and fun 2 weeks.
Yeah, and we'll see that kind of like, I don't think follow-up's the right word, but kind of the after effects of this tournament. So we've seen the Kachucks are going on a ton of like podcasts and TV spots, and like it really put hockey in the spotlight in the U.S. for sure.
Jimmy Fallon, right?
Yeah,
Matthew Tkachuk.
Yeah, and I think both of them went on Travis and Jason Kelsey's podcast, which I know was like a really,
McAfee's next, I guarantee.
Yeah, yeah. So
I'm pretty sure they've been on, or like one of them has been on his show before.
Yeah, it would not surprise me. So cool in that sense. Like obviously, like hockey, it's a chance for them to grow a little bit, get some eyes on it, and the NHL is really leaning into that now too. As there's one of the people I think of a record that people thought would stand for all of eternity, Wayne Gretzky's goal record. We talked a little bit about this I think last time, but Alex Ovechkin now just 11 goals away from tying Gretzky's goal record, and we joked like, it might happen where it could be in St. Paul where it happens. And now, like, if you look at and do the math of where he is now, 11 goals away, the Caps have 14 games before they come to the X. And if you've like basically if you build out what his current goal pace is, it was like 0.71 before yesterday's game. So it might be a titch higher than that now. Like that math comes right out to that game in St. Paul where he could tie or break that record. So for that reason,
in the beginning of the season, Hoppy asked me, because he had like an extra ticket. He always brings me to a game, and he was like, "What game do you want? Like Edmonton or Capitals?" And at the time, I think Ovi was like hurt, and I was like, "Let's see McDavid live." And I was like, the game where I think they beat us, they beat like
when they pounded us like 7-0. Yeah,
it was 7. The Wild scored a goal or two, but anyways, it was that game, and I was like, "Oh man, now Ovi's totally gonna." come
Dude, someone on Twitter, when I put out this thread about just like kind of where Ovi's at, like said the exact same thing. Like they got this ticket voucher at the beginning of the year, got to pick their game, pick the Edmonton game, the same one you went to.
Oh yeah, there you go.
He's like, I'm really hoping I don't regret it. So
yeah, but no, and I heard they changed it to a national broadcast as well.
Yes, which we have a little bit in our hot take section about something with that game being changed that I think will be a little fun to discuss. So.
Well, how cool would that be? You could, Ovechkin will get a banner in Minnesota.
Yeah, and like I think like not to say he wouldn't be respected wherever he did it, but like I think there's such an appreciation for hockey in Minnesota. Like I feel like the fans here would like, it's still gonna be a away game, so it wouldn't be the reaction he would get at home. But like, I think you could see him getting a very like good reception from Wild fans and not being like salty, but like, oh, it happened to us versus like
witnessing history, dude.
Yeah,
like
and he's historically played really well against the Wild. Like his goal numbers and points are like, I think he's like almost like 2 points a game or something crazy against the Wild. So
there you go. Throw Wallstat in that game.
Yeah, like seriously, let's help the guy, dude. That'd be cool. Be the only game will be okay with losing and having the other player like score a hat trick or something. In that game. Other news around the league, Trevor Zegras was suspended for 3 games for an illegal check to the head on, I believe it's Michael Rasmussen of the Detroit Red Wings. Pretty ugly hit, I think. Yeah. Given kind of what
not quite the full chicken wing, but like it was just like, yeah.
It was so late. At least the replay I saw was only in slow motion, but like it was almost a second after the puck was gone in slow motion. So like, I don't know, it looked late. It was high. It was kind of stupid, and I think given just what we've seen suspensions are at for other players and repeat new offenders and stuff, I think 3 is probably about right for that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was one of those things where it was just like a second play, but like again, man, it always happens with the guys who are just looking straight down after they make the play, and then they look up and boom, heads on a swivel. So it was one of those like perfect storm of, shittiness, whereas like Zegras went for the head and Rasmussen was looking right down at the ice. So
yeah, unlike Alex DeBrincat, who delivered just one of the most beautiful body checks I've seen all season on Brock Faber. That was a sweet hit. I was like, I saw it in real time. I was like, ooh, that looked high, and then I saw the replay. I'm like, nope,
that was
like,
just.
It's also Alex DeBrincat, who's like the same height as me at like 5'6", 5'7", so it's hard to go in high, even on Faber. So
he plays a tough game though. I like watching him play.
Yeah, so like Yeah, and I like that in that situation too. The Wild player stood up for Bully, didn't like necessarily drop the mitts, but got in the guy's face and stuff. So a couple other smaller headlines: the Hurricanes exploring a trade already for Mikko Rantanen potentially. Sounds like the contract negotiations not going well there. Not surprising. Like it hasn't clicked there yet. It still could, but I know he wasn't happy about that trade to begin with, so he might be in the mind of, well, if I'm gonna be a free agent, I'm gonna choose where I want to go.
Was it 10.5 that they offered him?
I heard it was like close to like 14.
Oh shit. Okay.
Or maybe that was somebody else, but
Or maybe it was 11.5. But I don't know. I see all these and I'm like, I don't know who reported this, and I look, I'm like, hey, is this just like a random Twitter account or is this actually a report? But anyways.
Yeah. So we'll see where that goes. Minnesota Wild trade deadline. I think we'll have a couple days before it next Wednesday, so we'll probably have that discussion next week. And then LA to host the 2025 draft. Not as exciting news now. It's no longer an in-person draft, so it's be more of this like remote draft type of thing where the GMs aren't there and can have their war rooms and whatnot. So still really fun. I know we always have a blast doing our live stream of that episode. It's always one I look forward to. So it'll be out in LA this year. So it could maybe impact start times because I don't know if they'll put it like in prime time there, if they're still going to honor like East Coast stuff, but we'll see.
True, because I'm trying to think back when it was in Vancouver. I don't remember if it was actually. You know what? No, they'll do it earlier. I remember. I remember watching because me and my buddies would just watch the draft like in high school and in college as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like half our friend group didn't watch hockey, half our friend group did. So like there were like midday sometimes in like the summer. And we got like a 12-pack of beers, and they're like, "What are you guys doing inside?" We're like, "Give us an hour, like at least to like the 20th pick, and then we're good." And I remember watching some as early as like 1 or 2, Pacific time. So they'll probably do it. Yeah, they'll probably do it earlier for sure.
They'll pander.
You were right about Rantanen. 13 million was
13. Okay. I knew it was like 13 or 14 or something. Yeah. So, which isn't to say like he wouldn't take that, but he may just not want to play in Carolina. Like that could just be the reality too. So, moving in here to state tournament, the girls' high school hockey tournament was this past weekend. Congratulations to Dodge County with the big upset over Warroad, and that one I believe in overtime to take that one on the girls' side, and then Hill Murray over Edina, I believe, also in overtime for the girls. So Hill Murray, Dodge County, your girls' state champions. So congratulations if we have any listeners or fans that cheer for those teams. Pretty cool. Exciting stuff. And then we have boys hockey running rampant tonight with section championships. Pretty much all of them are tonight. There's a couple games that are tomorrow and Friday. But look here on screen, Northfield and Lords in 1A, Minneapolis and Orono, Laverne and Mankato West, Chisago Lakes and Matamidi, Monticello and St. Cloud Cathedral, Northern Lakes, Alexandria, Cloquet and Hibbing, and then Warroad and East Grand Forks round out the 8A championship games. And Class A bracket, pretty exciting this year. There's a lot of newer faces in the mix. I'm not sure if they'll all make it, but could see some potentially new teams in St. Paul here next week. Games coming up this week, championships. Most of these are tomorrow night. We have the Battle of Lakeville South versus North in 1AA, 2AA, Holy Family, and Shakopee. Holy Family, I believe, upset Eden Prairie as the number 4 seed, beating off the number 1 in that one. So that should be a fun game there. Shakopee having a really good year. St. Thomas and Cretin in 3AA. Hill Murray took down Roseville already tonight. Stillwater and White Bear playing right now, I believe. Their section championship is on Friday night. That's one of the last ones. We have Rogers and Champlain Park in 5AA. Edina Wayzata. I believe Edina may have already come out on top. This one might be a final. I think here I have Hockey Hub up. Just going to do a refresh.
Simon's a Edina fan. What's the... Okay, they just beat Wayzata.
Yeah, 4-1 final there.
Damn.
Hill Murray 10 rip over Roseville. Number 1 Monticello down to St. Cloud Cathedral right now, 5-zip. And then one of the 3 games we have left here, Rock Ridge versus Andover. For those not familiar with Rock Ridge, because I was not, that's now the Virginia, Eveleth, and Gilbert combo. So they are playing. And then Moorhead and Bemidji playing right now. Moorhead up in that one, 5-1. So it should be really fun. Single A tournament, I believe, kicks off Wednesday. Double A quarters on Thursday, and then
Oh, I can't wait.
semifinals Friday, and then finals Saturday. I will be there Friday afternoon for the Class A semi. So if you'll be around, let me know. You want to say hi, meet up. Totally willing to do that. Let me know. I will be there for sure for the afternoon games. We'll see whether or not I'm there for the evening games, but I think you guys will be there.
I'll be there the whole day, from the dusk till dawn till dusk. So
sweet. We'll have to come say hi. And
the whole Sota Pod crew. Yeah, well, I guess half the Sota Pod crew. Will be there
seriously.
Well, I think maybe. Shoot, I maybe even think some of the NCAA boys, Veach might be there. So we'll see.
Sweet, come say hi.
Yeah, if you guys are going to be there, listeners,
should have gotten a booth at the expo.
Yeah, next year we'll plan this out better next year because we're like all going to show up and be like, oh, she. Hell yeah, I'm stoked, man. This is even like since moving to Minnesota, I've gone every year, and even when I came to visit the year prior, honestly, this was like one of the reasons why I was like, oh yeah, if I get to come to this tournament every year, like as much as I love my CHL playoffs, as much as I love my Memorial Cup, there's just something different for semifinals high school hockey when you got 18,000 people going crazy at the X.
Yeah, and for those who've never been, you have to go. Like it is some of the most electric hockey you will ever watch at the X. Like it's like some of the best hockey games I've ever watched have happened during the state tournament at the X. Like the crowd gets into it.
I've gone to World Junior games, big games like Czech versus Canada games.
It's big
at
game
Rogers
atmosphere,
Arena.
no doubt. Yeah,
but it's on another level. Another level.
So I mean, it's probably one of the biggest state high school tournaments of any sport across the country. I think Texas football and Indiana basketball are probably the two that could potentially rival it.
That's just because they can fit more people in a stadium versus an arena.
Yeah. Like some of the, I think the biggest crowds at the XL Energy Center have come from state championship games. Like they've crammed, I think, over 20,000 in there before for the AA state championship. So should be a blast. I always like to bring it up and talk about it because it's always one of my favorite times of the year. Like you throw it up on the laptop and in the earbuds at work, in the background, and then the work from home days, you got it up on the second monitor. So
I work from home all the time, so I have a second monitor and it's going to be up all week.
Yeah, looking forward to that. So, and then finally here, the wild news for the week. Ryan Hartman got his suspension reduced from 10 games to 8 games. Will not appeal this any further. Bettman dropped that suspension, felt that the 7-game jump from 3 games, which was his previous suspension, to 10 games was a little too steep. Bumped it down to 8. We talked about how we thought 10 would be fair. But he nice to get him.
We'll take it. We'll
take it, especially now, leading into this next bit, especially now that we know that Joel Eriksson Ek is going to be out week to week with a broken bone in his leg. Russo reporting on that. The timeline really extremely unknown. Like hasn't been ruled out that he could miss the rest of the regular season. So we'll maybe have probably
He's had
a little
tough year with injuries. He's been in and out, up and down,
and like a bunch of fluke ones, like a concussion. Like I think it's his second broken bone. I think now maybe for him. Just really unfortunate.
Broken nose right earlier in the season is like 2 weeks into the season or something like that too. So like. It's just like every player goes through one of these years. Unfortunately, this is his year. Maybe this is what he needs to get fresh before playoffs. And I feel like we're saying that with so many players now, but like, man, thank God the Wild gave themselves so much runway in the beginning of the season, or else this would be a way more stressful time of year.
Yeah. So the other one, of course, Kaprizov, we thought he could be back as soon as this weekend. Now it sounds like it's going to be longer than what they originally thought, maybe closer to that 6-week timeline, if not even more. They still don't necessarily have clarity yet if he'll be back before the playoffs.
Right? They don't want to rush it, which I'm okay with.
Right, but I think it's I think we may have a little bit on it later about one of my opinions about that Wild I think would prefer to have him come back before the playoffs, but more on that.
They need to give him some games, but
some runway. Yeah,
we have time. Sure. We have time.
Yeah, so I think if you're looking for an official announcement in the next week or so, you probably won't get it. But I think if you see the Wild acquire a player of significance at the deadline, it's likely because they put one of these guys in LTIR with the expectation they're going to miss the rest of the regular season. So we can talk maybe about who some of those guys could be next week, but that's a way that you may know if you see one of those guys go in LTIR, expect the Wild to be a little more active. And then
no one's going to suggest Brock Besser, right? No one's going to suggest Brock Besser because I feel like every year nobody even brings up his name.
Well, I think he's on the Wild's radar if the money can work. But
oh wow, he's been on the Wild's radar, but they didn't draft him. every single year.
Because I took that. But now we
I'm
can have
taking
both.
jabs because it's just us on social media.
Yeah.
Let's bring the Burnsville boy home.
Yeah.
Can they pay him next year? Because that's what it comes down to. He said,
Right.
I would love to stay in Vancouver, but like there's other teams that are gonna pay me more than what you guys are seemingly hinting at. So
I'd rather pay him over Brock Nelson, but that's another conversation for another day.
yeah, you know. Sorry, Brock Nelson, but one has gray hair, one doesn't.
Correct. And then just like the last piece of injury bits here, shout outs to, I think it's at milks_teeth on X, also goes by Julia. She pulled this data, tweeted it out last night.
Milk's teeth.
The Wild have had a healthy roster for 6 of 58 games.
Jeez.
10.3% of their games where they've had their opening night, 18
That's
skaters, 2 goalies
crazy.
healthy. So, and yet, despite that, sitting in 3rd place in the division, 7th place in the NHL. Like,
So we can't blame last year on injuries anymore.
No,
Is what that's saying. That
no, it definitely was the goaltending.
what a
last year,
resilient bunch too, eh?
for sure.
Like no wonder there's no scoring.
Yeah, they're getting it done though. One guy who helped step in, get it done for a little bit there. Travis Dermott was put on waivers yesterday. Got
Which
reclaimed.
we figured we called it. We
Yes,
called it.
We figured this would be the case once they got a couple players back. So he was reclaimed by Edmonton today, and I believe now can go to their AHL system. So thank you for your service, Travis Dermott. Appreciated the fill-in that you had. Like, I don't think his games
Given the
were
type of guy he is,
horrible.
we might even see him again sometime.
Yeah. Here, I'm just gonna look. I have a game log. I kept a game log this year of PCS. So I'll double check what he gave us here.
He's still relatively young. Yeah, but he's not even 30 yet, dude. He's definitely going to be in a Wild sweater again. Before his career's over.
An average of negative 0.09 PCS per game. So like basically right where you'd expect a waiver claim fill-in to fit in. So thank you for your service there. And then the last piece here, and I wanted to bring this up because we talked a little bit about this last week with the Wild's training staff, the whole Charlie McAvoy situation, all that stuff. Russo did give some clarity on his podcast this week on that, so I wanted to bring that here because I got a little bit into the Wild staff, but we weren't getting the whole side of the story is what it sounds like, and that especially the Bruins seem to kind of blow this way out of proportion with the whole McAvoy infection thing. McAvoy admitted like he's gotten similar infections from injections that he got for this AC joint sprain before, and that like Team USA checked in on him. He's like, yep, everything's good. Didn't feel like he got the wrong care. Like it sounds like the Bruins have a knack for kind of being this passive aggressive, point the finger type of stuff. Not surprising that's out of Boston.
I was just going to say that. Cam Neely, passive aggressive? No.
And then also like we had a little bit of criticism for Joel Boyd at the time. I didn't realize this, but he's been working with Team USA as the team doctor since like 98. And has been like with the Wild for like, I think since basically day one. So don't think it's a him issue. I think this got blown out of proportion. And it's just, the Wild have had some bad luck with injuries, and I think it's easy to try to point a finger, but sometimes you just have bad luck. And I think that's what we're dealing with here.
Yeah, no, for sure. Just quickly, we had a comment by from Logan Jensen. It's a little bit of like a big, broad question, but maybe you can dwindle it down to something that's been on your mind, Brett. But he says, what changes would you guys make to the rosters? I'm guessing the Wild.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a good transition. I think here into our next question, because there's probably our next segment, the analytics agenda. I think the one change I would do is I think I'd look at splitting up Middleton and Faber.
All right, well, let's get to it.
Yeah, so I think this is the first change I would make because it's been a pretty rough stretch for Middleton and Faber lately, and I think it's easy to kind of gloss it over because we look at the minutes played and like the Wild have won a lot of these games and stuff still, but it hasn't been much due in part to what these two have done, especially since Middleton returned from injury. So I was curious because like beginning of the year, I think we even had a segment on here. We talked about we got to keep these two together because things look great. Right?
Yeah, they looked awesome towards the first half of the season.
Yeah, so from December 10th, the first game of the season, through December 12th, which is when Middleton got hurt. I mean, this is what they were looking at here on the left side. 3.31 goals for per 60. This is all at 5-on-5. 1.15 goals against per 60, rocking up about a 51% expected goal share, just a shade under 50% on the Corsi share. They had a 53.5% high danger chance share. They're averaging a PCS. Middleton was 0.83 per game. Faber was sitting at 1.9 per game. Little bit of a high PDO. They were getting some really good goaltending and a pretty high on ice shooting percentage, but they were at a 108.4 PDO. So things were looking great. Middleton goes down, misses some games, comes back. They put Faber and Middleton back together, and things just drop off a cliff. The goals for per 60 with those two on the ice have dropped from 3.31 to 0.57. So almost 3 goals. So that's basically like a goal a game, bizarre. Essentially, is what they're dropping right now. Goals against has jumped from 1.15 to 1.98. The expected goals for per 60 have dropped from 2.23 to 1.73. The alarming area, the expected goals against, 2.15 from really high end shutdown, now up to a really leaky 3.09. We're talking worse than Merrill Bogosian type numbers here. That's just a 35.9% expected goal share. The average PCSs for them have dropped from 0.83 to 0.6 for Middleton. Middleton went from 0.83 to negative 0.73. Faber from 1.9 to negative 0.6. So just huge fall offs here. And I don't really know what it is. Part of it, the on ice shooting percentage has dropped from 12.43 to 2.44. So the Wild aren't scoring with them out there, but I think it's largely in part because they're just not spending any time in the offensive zone. I don't know if they're getting harder matchups, if they can't get the breakouts.
Well, and Middleton was putting up points at a higher rate than he should have too, which maybe skewed stuff a little bit. But from the eye test. But
he was in the offensive zone.
I didn't even look at the stats until we talked on the podcast, and I came into the show being like, Brett, how good have they been? And then you're push up your glasses, and we're like, oh, actually, you should look at the numbers here. They actually have been incredible. And I was like, see?
Yeah.
But right now it's on both sides.
Yeah, and it's they had some really rough games against Detroit. They weren't particularly good in either of those recently. So, again, I don't know what the issue is. Is it a Middleton or a Faber issue? I lean it's maybe a little bit more of a Middleton, just given what we saw in the Four Nations from Faber. But how much? But then it makes you wonder how much of that was actually Slavin. It's hard to know. There's a lot of variables at play there. Yeah, high danger chances against per 60, pretty jarring. Yeah, jump from 8.48 up to 13.9 now. So from 8 a game now to about 14 a game. Not per game, per 60 minutes. So in their case, it's every 3 to 4 games they're allowing that many. But yeah, so we've seen Middleton be really good with Spurgeon. We've seen Brodin be good with Faber. That pairing on the flip side of the coin still looks really good. Brodin Spurgeon's been great. So I don't know if maybe, again, it's the matchup thing, but I'd maybe look at splitting those two up, just seeing if you can find a little bit of rhythm, chemistry again. Because right now it's not looking good. And if it continues this way, I think, especially now with the injuries up front in the offense, it's going to be a lot tougher for them to win games if you're not getting as much scoring from your offense and your supposed best D pair is struggling this much.
Yeah. Yeah, that runway at the beginning of this season is looking sweet right now. Just kind of have to get through this stretch with the key guys out, and then hopefully they can just be healthy for more than, how many games was it again? You said
6
or 6. Jeez.
6 games.
Absolutely insane. Insane. All right, last segment of the show, which you guys, the listeners, the followers, you guys helped us out with. Let's get to Puck Your Opinion.
I just want to say, Puck Your Opinion.
Let's just quickly actually start with Logan was actually clearing it up. He said, I was asking when you guys were talking about Olympic team rosters.
Oh.
And I'll just quickly touch on it and say, for Canada, man, just start scouting the hell out of goaltenders. Bring as many to every camp that you do and just see what you got there. And maybe bring a Tom Wilson with you this time, just to beef up that physicality. And I mean, the United States will have Quinn Hughes, right? They'll have some more healthy bodies. And maybe even on Canada's side, Pietrangelo will want to, maybe even want to play in the Olympics. Or maybe Hockey Canada right now just goes, get the fuck out of here. You're not part of this group now. But no, for Canada, Tom Wilson is a must now, I think. And then I think they just have to ramp up their pro scouting on goaltending, or they just say, Marc-Andre, stay in shape. You may not be playing in the NHL next year, but stay in shape because we may have to call on you. And this is coming from the team that won it with Binnington, and he played tremendous hockey in that game. But one game,
yeah. Can you hellebucket and repeat that every game? I don't know, because there was also
you cannot.
the near meltdown against was it Finland where he gave up like 3 goals in like 2 minutes or something.
Dude, yeah.
Got the
This
Finns
is how
closed,
Binnington is too.
yeah.
And some goalies are, and some goalies can get hot at the right time, and he's won
blew
a
it
Stanley
against
Cup.
Sweden, I think, nearly let
Dude.
Sweden back into that game. So
There are
like,
2 back-to-back goals in overtime that he
it was
stopped
the
for
most like
Americans.
Binnington performance.
No,
like
I
that.
know. And when he stopped those 2 goals, I was like, Canada's gonna win. Like
Yeah.
that's enough. And just like that. So yeah, I think on the American side, like there's not much more. Like they'll just like both Hughes brothers will be on the team, Jack and Quinn.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think
like-
the interesting point, like it sounds like, and I didn't watch him close enough, but it sounds like there was a lot of disappointment around Adam Fox and what he did in that tournament, and it sounds like he may now have gone from like seemingly a lock, like we're talking about a guy that's won Norris trophies is within the last like 5 years, I think, to now being, is he maybe the odd one out? Because I believe they can take 8D to this next tournament. Roos even hinted that he wouldn't rule out the potential of Aziz Bouyam being on that team as 8th defenseman, just to kind of start being around the guys, being a guy that could potentially fill in if needed. So I think that'll be interesting as kind of who the 7th and 8th defenseman end up being. I think Sanderson's probably a lock there as well. But we'll see. Faber, obviously, and Slavin are probably guaranteed after that performance, which is good. And then I think
the U.S. doesn't have to change much, to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
you guys pretty much have the dream team out there.
Yeah, and then up front, I think they just had to figure out how to get the goal scorer scoring goals. Matthews, I think maybe had 1 in the tournament. Hughes didn't look very good. Gensel's about the only one who regularly scores that pucks in the net. So, figuring out maybe some line combinations that work, and then I think you got to look at ditching guys like Kreider and Trocheck and some of these guys that fit up the 4th line, and maybe replacing the Tage Thompson and Clayton Keller. Maybe some more shooters and scorers that beef up and allow you to be flexible and mix up your lines. So, but beyond that, I think maybe it's 4 to 5 guys different, and we're mostly talking like 3rd pair.
Yeah, no, for sure. I just think like they were filler guys because maybe I can't even think off the top of my head who those 2 guys would be, but there's maybe just 2 other guys who they wanted to come but just couldn't, given the circumstances that this was thrown into the middle of the season. But yeah, again, blew my expectations out of the water. But all right, let's get to some of these other hot takes / opinions.
Yeah, so someone listened. The opinion was hockey has a lot of terms that can be confusing for fans to understand. This is from Mega Sota on X at Kickastrophe is the handle there. Just asked us like, could we spend some time over the next couple episodes just like going through like some like not necessarily like hockey slang, but just like maybe like hockey buzzwords that you hear all the time. What do they mean? So a couple that he had threw out there were, what is home ice advantage? What does it mean to pinch? What's a back check? What's a box out? So stuff like that. So we can maybe
home ice advantage should be pretty self-explanatory, given that like you're at home, it's your rink that you either practice on or play on often. You know the ice, you know the corners, you know the sound. It's a familiar spot, so you should theoretically be more comfortable playing at home.
Yeah, and then you have there's a couple tactical advantages of you get last change.
Yep.
Right. You have, if the game I think goes to a shootout, you get to choose if you want to shoot first or shoot second. It's like you get little advantages like that kind of thing. So that's kind of where that comes from. Obviously, like having your home crowd behind you always helpful. A pinch, that is when your offensive team is in the offensive zone. Typically, your defense are going to hang up on the blue line, defend any breakouts or rushes that come toward them. A pinch is when a defenseman steps in, probably like I would say below the top of the circle. Usually it's along the board, like hold the puck in the zone, step up on a breakout. Basically, like just he's being an additional attacker, almost activating into the zone as a forward. That's that. If you have anything to add.
No, that's good.
All right, do you know what a back check is?
Give her. Your explanations are way more concise than mine.
A back check is basically just any time that a player on the ice is getting back from the offensive zone and transitioning to playing defense, and typically is meant being done with a purpose and a hustle, right? So if a guy catches a guy from the red line, lifts his stick on an opposing rush after maybe it's a forward or a center, he's on the back check trying to get back into the play, get back into helping out defending. And then last one I had on here was
which
box out.
Goudreau's been phenomenal on his back check
Yeah.
this year.
Yeah, Freddie's had some really nice stick lifts and stuff coming back into the play, helping out. And the last one we have on here for this week is box out. This basically just means creating space through like physical battle. A lot of times it'll be in front of the net, boxing out. I mean, get that guy out of the goalie's eyes, take away his stick, take away his ability to get open for tips and screens and stuff, and just box him out of the front of the net. I think you'll hear similar things in like basketball with that kind of defending. So boxing out is the Wild in the playoffs for speed. Yeah. So I think that covers it. And so, if you have more like things you hear a lot or slang, like let us know. We're happy to explain. It's not quite analytics, but just like basic hockey terms.
Some of them might just be like hockey players' answers to the media. Like, what does that mean? But
Right.
every hockey player says.
Yeah. Got to pucks in deep.
Yeah, pucks in deep. All right, let's get to the next one.
Next one from Simon Vanell. I'm wondering if that's the same Simon that has joined us here in the chat. If so, thanks for the question. Thanks for tuning in. Asking, what does the future look like for the Iowa D? And he's like the ones maybe not as NHL for sure. He was, setting guys like Lambos, O'Rourke, Peart. Some of those guys you can maybe throw
trade chips.
You can maybe throw Spacek in there too. So like, yeah, you can start with this one.
Yeah, I mean, Spacek and Peart are great examples where it's like they're so far down the D depth line at this point, but still have like a high enough ceiling and probably like enough talent where there would be teams that would want them developing in their system and maybe even might focus on, in Spacek's case, maybe him a little bit even more than Peart. So why not use them in trades for trade or as trade pieces, sweeteners in deals, which I imagine the Wild will make in the next couple years when they're all right. The roster's rounded out.
Yep.
Some of these big draft picks that we have now are starting to develop with the team. We have kind of our core for when we're now going to attack the playoffs, and we've identified key areas where we need to acquire a player or upgrade or polish position. These are the type of guys when you have a deep pipeline of draft picks. Again, there's not many spots in the National Hockey League. So and hell, there's not even many spots, in the AHL eventually, right? When younger guys are going to come in and even take your spot there. And if you still got value, if you're young enough, and especially on defense for the Wild right now, we're like, Yurchek is going to have tough time finding, playing time next year. Like these are the type of guys that if you want to acquire a winger that's, a step up from just like the roster players or player that you could just straight up right now. Like, no, these are the type of guys you add into that trade to get it done.
Yeah, I think that's route one. I think route two, especially for a guy like Lambos and Spacek, like we've seen like players get hurt and there's going to have to be a next man up. And if these guys are kind of that bubble type of guy, like, maybe Carson Lambos, that is his career, right? He maybe is a number 5, 6, 7 defenseman. Like, well, 2 guys go down on the left side and they need a guy up there. Like Lambos is probably that first guy called up. So I think it's on these guys too. Like, we've seen with the Wild, like all 6 defensemen are not going to be healthy for the entire year. So like, even if you don't start, the season as the number 7 or, if you're the 8 or the 9, like you still have a shot to play games this year. So be good in the AHL, keep your trade value up for selfish reasons, but then be ready to go if you get the call. I think that's the important thing for these guys. And I think for as fans, it's to remember too, like these are still young players and defensemen more often than not, Brock Faber, a rare exception to the rule, like take a little bit more time to learn the game, get acclimated and be ready to go in the NHL. So
look, I always thought Peart was going to be a trade piece down the road anyways. And like, I liked him. I thought the left side's just pretty busy. Yeah. And it was awesome watching him in St. Cloud. Like he looked like he definitely has like NHL potential. It was just like when they signed him, like, okay, he's not going back. And yeah, given just how meh Iowa has been, bad even that Iowa's been the last couple years, especially with like just the development, I figured there's not a clear path to the NHL here anyways. So we'll see.
Yeah, O'Rourke is the one I don't think has much of an NHL future or maybe much trade value. I think he's just kind of going to be is what he is. He's probably a top 4 AHL defenseman, but all those others, Lambos, Peart, Jiricek, some of those guys, I think, not Jiricek, Spacek, I think a lot of those guys will fit in that spot. This next one, this is an opinion from me. and I kind of alluded to this before. I said that Wild fans should hope for a more boring trade deadline because that probably means that Kaprizov is going to come back before the playoffs. I know we like to be excited for trades, and it's fun to speculate. Like, are they going to bring in one of the Brocks or whatever? But Eriksson X situation maybe makes things a little different because when the time I put this opinion, I didn't know that he was potentially a candidate for LTIR. But that's kind of where I stand. I mean, like I want to see Kaprizov come back. To your point, like I think it'd be beneficial for him to be able to play 5, 6, 7 games down the stretch just to kind of get back, get that game shape, as they call it, the conditioning back. So we're not having a Dallas Stars situation from a couple years ago where he played like 2 games and then was like, yeah, I was pretty rusty for that series.
Yeah. And again, like if you're putting all your eggs in the basket of a deadline piece, who you're leaning on a lot, like again, if you can get like complementary pieces at the deadline, that's I think way more valuable than like rolling the dice on Martin Hansel 2.0, right?
Right.
Like you guys have been burned before, like.
Well, especially for the Wild, right? You don't have your first round picks, and now it's you're because at least with a pick there's some uncertainty, like hey that player could bust. Where if you're trading a prospect now, it's like hey we actually like kind of know what this guy is, and so like we're trading away kind of what we think he could be for this, what we think is something good, but. It'll be interesting. Like I think to see what they're able to do, and I think the less they're able to do, the better, because that means there's optimism that Kaprizov and Ek will be back sooner rather than later.
See, now this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, why I don't think Detroit does that personally. Like I think if they're trading away a rental piece, they want to get.
Or that's what the fans are saying. There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, shit, man. Would I rather have old man Tarasenko here than old-ish man and fragile Johansson?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Detroit would do that, but yeah, could be wrong. I just think they'd maybe want to get a younger asset somehow.
They are wanting to move him, but I doubt they'd want a 34-year-old Johansson or Johansson coming back.
And then the last one I have on here, this just was kind of it's seemingly near universal hockey Twitter. We could maybe skew it a little more like Caps Twitter opinion, but they want their play-by-play announcers to be able to call these national games that are being moved to national spotlight versus like the national announcers. Like I think the better way to explain this is like there was like 3 or 4 Capitals games that got moved from their local Washington broadcast to like ESPN, ABC. I don't know if TNT got any of them, but it's like 4 games where you could potentially pass or break the record. And basically their fans were saying like, our play-by-play guys have called, 800 plus of these goals in his career. Like we want, like it's a disservice to those guys to not be able to call it the tie in the break.
I will say the Capitals play-by-play announcer is one of the most hype in the league.
Joe Beninati, I think is his name.
Yeah,
right?
and
he's
like
awesome.
Yeah, he does the radio and TV, and he is amazing. Like he's so good. So like I wouldn't have a problem with that at all. And like you said, like he's been doing it the whole career. Like he's probably excited to call that one as well.
Yeah, he's one of the best play-by-play guys in the league. He used to do, I think, way back in the day. For those that remember, their NHL was on something called like OLN, and then it became like Versus.
OLN, man, they had some crazy weird like original broadcasting on that shit. Or that
and then it changed into Versus, but I think he did some games back then, and like he has this very like cool rasp to his voice, and like a lot of like whenever I kind of hear an OV highlight in my head, it's like it's a Joel Beninati like play-by-play.
Oh,
so,
when they won the cup, or no, when they beat Pittsburgh, and obviously when they won the cup, but when they beat Pittsburgh, man, it was one of those calls that I got goosebumps. I was like, oh man, like this is
yeah. So I agree. Like I just don't know. Like, can they do that? I don't know, because I think the Capitals network is an NBC affiliate. So now you have like, are you really gonna is ABC gonna let an NBC announcer come on? And so we'll see. I think
money talks.
I didn't realize
if Ted Leonza wants it, Ted Leonza is gonna get it.
Yeah. And to your point, I didn't realize he also did their radio. Like I think maybe that's at least a slight positive, where like you still will have him doing the call, albeit radio versus TV, but at least maybe you still have the call. But
well, and you can get thank God for the internet. You can get the radio call online too. So
Yep.
Yeah.
So
No, that's a great take, and I'm all about it. I'm all about it for sure.
And you can tell that Wild fans have already taken notice of this too. I went and looked at ticket prices for all the home games for the rest of the season. I wonder if it's changed already by now. Now that because this was like right when they announced the change.
So where does he go party when he hits it? Like, do you think like he sticks around in St. Paul, or he makes the trek to Minneapolis? Because like,
I mean, I would imagine they would do.
He's getting fucked up that night.
Tom Reed's.
Oh, could you imagine, dude? Like,
that'd be sweet. Yeah. So I looked up tickets for that game now. Cheapest ticket, $107 for a Thursday night game, which is very, very uncommon. The only games that have more are the games they play Saturdays, which are pretty much always over 100. There's a couple Sunday games, and then I believe the season finale against the Ducks. Well, that one's actually only $48 right now. So, but yeah,
dude, it's so crazy hearing I've been here for a few years and I still can't believe these ticket prices because like I'm still used to like Vancouver Canucks, and it's like you're not getting in the door for like anything under 170 in like in Vancouver, and like again, keyword getting in the door, like it's nuts.
Yeah, if you want to fly
like solid seats here for like less than $100.
Well, like you look at some of the road teams, like the Wild in Dallas, like Wild Stars rivalry game. $29 in Dallas. Devils Wild, pretty good game, $23. Islanders Wild, $23. Flames Wild, $22. And then Canucks actually Wild, $53.
Quinn Hughes, so baby.
Man, like I would love to pay $23.
Quinn Hughes and future Wild center Elias Pettersson.
Ooh, I think that was a late submission from friend of the show, State of Hoppy. He wants a vibe check on Elias Pettersson.
The vibes ain't good, boys. The vibes ain't good.
So I'll leave that one to you as the resident dual Wild.
Dude,
Vancouver
even like there's so many people from, and mind you, this is Vancouver media, which like a few of them I actually have like met personally, and they're not crazy. They're passionate and they're tough with their questions, but like so is Russo when things are the players like Russo when things are good. I imagine Russo's not the most popular guy in the scrum when things aren't good, right? Because he's no bullshit. He's going to ask questions. So those Vancouver media guys aside, there's a lot of people tweeting right now about how like it's not good, their relationship with him, and how it's one thing to be frustrated and there's another thing to like not show up and do your job and face the media, especially as like a assistant captain, and it's not good right now. So the vibes, even without JT, are low. And what is JT doing in New York?
Well,
just
and I don't think that's
points.
helping. Yeah, he's like a point a game right now, like good expected goals numbers and everything. So like now it's maybe Miller wasn't the problem talk, and because the Rangers, it's not like they were having a good year either, and then all of a sudden he comes over now. Oh, they're good again, and I thought
he's a gamer.
Like, and I thought he played great at the Four Nations. I thought too, like he was on a line with Faber, like him, Faber, and Larkin. I think
he was part of the friggin' Bash Bros line brawl.
Yeah, so
yeah, I am gutted that he is no longer a Vancouver Canuck. Like it hurts. It's like like when you go through that like the first week of your breakup and you're just like, I hate this feeling. Like your heart is broken, right? Like
That was me when I had to watch Victor Rask instead of Nino Niederreiter.
Mine is still on the mend, and the fact that like Elias Pettersson might be moved too, just for like fresh start. It's like, what the fuck, Vancouver? You built up a core, and now you have to somehow convince Quinn Hughes to stay here, and Demko's gonna retire. Friggin' it's because he's not gonna retire right now, but soon. Well, yeah, because he friggin's falling apart. Like,
they're worried about that because they don't give Lankinen that deal if they think Demko's going to be healthy sooner rather than later.
No, mind you, Lankinen has been great, and they have that young guy there. But like, man, for all the great goaltenders that the Canucks have had, they're seemingly just like falling apart, man.
Yeah. Yeah,
dude, Demko, we had two back-to-back American studs in Schneider and Demko who can't even make it to 35, 36 with the team. Like, damn it. Oh, well.
That's the way it goes. One last update here on section championship scores for those listening live. We have a final in class. Where did it go? Oh, maybe. Oh, that's a different score now than what it was before. It was a Minneapolis Orono final that originally I think said Orono won 4-3, and now I just refreshed it again. It was Minneapolis 2-1 final in that one in Class 3AA or 3A.
Okay.
I think all the other ones we already mentioned. Moorhead Bemidji is an 8-1 final.
Jeez.
Cathedral Monticello is a 7-0 final. And there we have it now. Yeah, Minneapolis 2, Orono 1 final there in Class 1A, Section 2 for that one. So,
damn, beat down.
So, yeah, excited to see because I care a little bit about these ones because these are one of the teams I'll probably be watching next week at that afternoon session. So,
hell yeah, guys, if you haven't already, check out Brett's vlog. Here the link is in the live chat as well, but it's always in the description. Swerve's getting tired of Gus' inconsistency. What is Swerve not getting tired of, though? That is the question. That is the question.
Speaking of my blog, I think that one on there, goaltending is voodoo, and I have proof. Read that, and then you won't be tired of Gus's inconsistency because you realize it's not unique to him.
Logan Fiziev, I believe they signed. It's been announced today, so we're gonna see Gaethje Fiziev 2, which honestly is going to be an absolute banger again because that fight was really close. I love that everyone knows that I'm like the UFC guy too. Hoptics jumps in my chat every Saturday. You're not watching the Wild game? I'm like, Hoptics, Saturday's my fight day. So no, I'm not watching the Wild game. There you go. Yeah, you've seen Orno win. But anyways, guys, check out Brett's vlog here. Subscribe.
That score says 2-2 no Hockey Hub, so I have no idea who won the game.
Oh shit.
He said it was 4-3, 2-1. Now it's 2-2. Now it says 3-2 Orono. So I don't know, but
all right, we'll keep refreshing and check out Brett's your player cards as well. He's posted a bunch of new ones, so there you go.
Yes, and I've been good about getting them up same day as the game recently. So
there you go. And as always, you can find my other stuff, my fight companions, and just other content that I post on the City Life Project. Shout out to Hoptics for stopping by over the weekend. Yes, Logan Jensen, any MMA or combat sports questions, happy to answer on any of the shows that I am featured on. Fellowship of the Rink wasn't able to be dropped today, so I'm about to edit it right after this, and it'll be up first thing tomorrow morning. Russo on this episode, guys. So he sat down with Hoppy and Joe Smith, so this one will be a good one. And then I'm heading to Lupulin tomorrow, Brett, as we are canning Tourney Flow, the beer that Hoppy and I have brewed with Lupulin Brewing again the second time for the state tourney. So
I will try it out when I'm there next Saturday.
Hell yeah, it should be on tap. We're recording some content with them to promote their big beer week coming up next week as well. So that will have a quick turnaround and have content out on the weekend for that as well. So busy day tomorrow of eating Quick Trip and drinking a ton of beer. So should be a fun work day.
Yeah, absolutely.
We love our friends at Lupulin.
Wild upcoming schedule. I believe they now go back to back the next two nights, Utah and Colorado. Then they come back home for one game against Boston, and then Seattle, a late game next Tuesday. So 4 games for us to talk about. We come back next week, plus trade deadline. So it should be it'll probably likely be a much more Minnesota Wild heavy.
Oh yeah, we're back we're back with a ton to talk about. No more ragging the puck.
Yes. All right, that's all I got.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for watching. Thank you everybody for listening. And Brett, last word goes to you.
We'll see you next week.